What's up, everyone? It's Dakota, and today I'm going to be going over an all-time classic deck. Shows up in just about every format in every conceivable possible way, and in Pioneer it's no different. And by metagame share is actually a very popular deck currently. I believe even more popular than like the mono green devotion deck, which we did cover in a previous video, going over these Pioneer decks. But today we're going to be looking at mono red aggro for the Pioneer format. And if you enjoy watching these videos, if you enjoy me going over like Pioneer or going over Modern, things like that, and all these other theoretical like SAE type videos, be sure to subscribe so you can see more of those videos, and of course like and comment so the videos get suggested to more people, and we can kind of grow this little community, I guess, that we have going on here. But with that out of the way, let's look at the mono red aggro deck. And for people that have either seen or played against decks like this. Obviously, the thing that's going to get you with these red aggro decks is going to be the creatures more so than the burn spells. So you have cards like Monastery Swiftspear, Soulscar Mage. 1 mana 1/2s. Monastery Swiftspear a little bit more aggressive than Soulscar Mage just from the fact that Swiftspear does have haste. Both having prowess means that you can play, turn 1 play a Swiftspear, turn 2 play some combination of Soulscar Mage and Monastery Swiftspear, and then you just like throw a bunch of burn spell like Play with Fire and Spike Field Hazard. You can stack up a ton of damage. Like essentially with like 2 prowess creatures, every burn spell is doing +2 damage with the addition of the prowess triggers. The rest of the creatures, 4 Eidolon and 4 Bone Crusher Giant. Bone Crusher obviously is like its own burn spell, can go to the face, can kill a creature, take out a planeswalker, etc. And then is also just a 3 mana 4/3 that can deal damage to your opponent if they have to target it with a spell, which can be very, very good. Eidolon of the Great Revel can also get some of the other decks when they just want to like cast obviously 3 cost or less spells. Pioneer is a relatively efficient format. Even looking at our own deck, there is a lot of 3s and under. So we're going to be triggering our Eidolon of the Great Revel, but chances are that our opponents are as well, especially when they have to cast a number of spells to either get out from underneath of the Eidolon or to just keep up with the board. If they are unable to deal with Eidolon, then this card itself will deal a ton of damage, on top of the fact that it can also get in for a few damage as well. Planeswalkers, normally in like the mono red decks, like in past Pioneer red decks, they definitely went a lot bigger than what the current iteration is. That we'd see cards like Glorybringer, and we'd see the 4 mana Chandra Torch of Defiance, which is a planeswalker that I'm surprised does not see more play, even though it is in the sideboard of this deck. But Chandra Dress to Kill is also pretty good in her own right. Obviously comes down to 3 mana, can essentially buy that mana back to play like a 1 cost spell. Can deal damage to a player or planeswalker, so she does incremental damage a turn. She can also draw you cards with the her second ability, which is a plus ability. Exile a top card library. If it's red, you may cast it this turn, and of course, all of our spells are red spells. I believe it does say cast it, so you can't play the land part of Spikefield Hazard if you exile it with Chandra. But this is a way to kind of keep the cards coming. A lot of downfalls for like the red aggressive decks is that you run out of gas, and Chandra does kind of limit that by either giving you mana when you need it and giving you a card when you do need it. So if you're light on lands, you're 3 mana and you want to be able to get up to like 4 mana, Chandra can do that. And if you just need cards because you're drawing too many lands, then Chandra can get you there as well. Even in the worst case, she exiles a land. Obviously, you're not drawing a land. Hopefully, not drawing a land next turn. So the rest of the spells, we went over probably, I would say, the most important part of the deck, but I think the most fun for the deck, I think for people to like cast, is burn spells and stuff. So we start with Play with Fire. Can deal 2 damage to any target, and if a player was dealt damage this way, you can scry 1. This is a way that you can kind of kind of like fix your draws. If you know that you're looking for more spells, maybe you kept a one lander with a play with fire, you're able to kind of manipulate said draw by going to the face on your opponent with this, scrying, and hopefully hitting your second land. Or if you're just looking for spells, you can again do the same thing, but just bottom a land instead of a spell, that you don't need it. Or if you're digging for something in particular, definitely has its utility. And of course, being able to get rid of any two power or two toughness or less creature is also pretty good. Spike Field Hazard. If the permanent was dealt damage this way, would die. You exile it instead. When you obviously resolve Spike Field Hazard. Also, having the added bonus of being a land does come up. Obviously, you're able to keep 0 and 1 landers that have a Spike Field Hazard in hand. Even though it is a tap land, it's obviously not very optimal. But it does have its utility. It does take care of like the one toughness mana dorks, especially against like the mono green deck and stuff like that, and even like the Winota deck. This does kill a lot of those creatures and just gets rid of them forever. Lightning Strike is basically the lightning bolt for this format. Wizard's Lightning is there's not enough wizards unless you wanted to replace like the Swift Spears with the Gitu Lava Runner. Lightning Strike is just the more consistent version of it that you want to be playing because Swift Spear is such a good aggressive creature on the early turns of the game. Then you have the Spectacle. I'll call it the Spectacle package, even though it's really not a package. There's two very good cards. Light Up the Stage, where with Spectacle, if your opponent was dealt damage or lost life this turn, you can pay Spectacle cost, which for Light Up the Stage is 1 red, and Skewer the Critics, also 1 red. Skewer the Critics basically becoming a Lightning Bolt if you have Spectacle triggered, and Light Up the Stage getting to exile 2 cards, and until the end of your next turn you may play those cards, which if you don't play a land, then you hit 2 lands and light up the stage. You're able to play both cards and stuff like that. So like, this is basically the best way Red has to draw cards alongside Chandra to kind of get you out of those holes where maybe you draw too many lands or just don't draw enough lands. And then obviously just the raw amount of cards you get to look at with cards like Light Up the Stage and Chandra kind of help curve the red deck hopefully into a way where you are able to kind of find those last few points of damage, whether it has to be from like Swift Spear, Eidolon, Bone Crusher, etc., or just flipping to find like the burn spell to do the last like few points of damage. Um, New addition to the deck, obviously there's Sokenzan, which if you've noticed, there's a lot of these channel lands across like Pioneer and Modern formats as well. We have Kumano faces Kakazan. I'm sure I butchered the heck out of that. But it's a saga. Chapter 1, when it comes in, it deals damage to each opponent and each planeswalker they control. A way that we can trigger Spectacle for Skewer the Critics and Light Up the Stage. And obviously, with the fact that it is technically a non-creature spell, we do get to trigger our Monastery Swiftspear and our Soulscar Mage's Prowess ability. The second chapter, the next creature spell you cast this turn enters the battlefield with an additional 1/1 counter. Having like a 2/3 Swiftspear, 2/3 Soulscar Mage, a little bit harder to deal with. Really just getting like that added point added to any of your creatures is very powerful. Then, of course, Chapter 3, you exile it and return to the battlefield into Etching of the Kumano. And it has haste, and whenever a creature dealt damage this turn by a source you controlled would die, exile it instead, which is really good when cards like Voice of Resurgence are kind of running around. Your opponents just getting that added bonus. I'm not going to act like it's super integral. As far as I know, there's not very many decks that want to kind of like loop through creatures that are in play. I'm sure those decks exist, but this just has that added upside of being able to get rid of those threats permanently once this is on the battlefield. Mana base for Den of the Bugbear. I think I bring it up just about any time that Den of the Bugbear shows up. But if you activate the ability to turn into a creature and you do it multiple times, however many times you activated it, when it attacks, it'll create that many 1/1 red goblins. And this deck, it's probably not going to come up too often because I think if you have, 9, 10 lands in play, you're probably not winning the game anyway. but it's something to keep in mind that it is a possibility that can happen. Sweet 11 Sweet Mountains. Make sure they're white bordered mismatching, so you can even tilt your opponent even more. The fact that you're basically playing an aggro/burn deck. 4 Ramanop Ruins, good enough to get banned in Standard and not good enough to get banned in Pioneer, but is very sneaky. The fact that it can just deal 2 damage, doesn't target anything like that. So, and obviously not a spell, so it's very, very hard for your opponent to actually be able to counter and stop this. Probably the easiest, like 2 free damage, and also again kind of helps you like when you're flooding because it is something to put your mana into. Finally, the one Sokinzan Crucible Defiance makes 2 1/1s. That's obviously that's fine. That's pretty good when you have cards that care about spectacle and whatnot. Um, Possibly even help you like push through damage, maybe even take out a creature in combat. Playing one of them, not playing more of them, because obviously drawing 2 of them is pretty bad. And obviously additional copies are not very good. The sideboard, kind of the theme I would say is ways to just beat the Winota deck and ways to beat like the mono green deck. So you have cards like Red Cat Melee that deal 4 damage to a creature or planeswalker. And if it's not red permanent that was dealt damage, this way you sacrifice a land. The 4 damage is the key part because it obviously does a ton of damage, like Kiora. More than likely can take out a Nissa or a 4 mana Karn. And also deals with Winota and the upside of getting to deal with Winota. The fact that Winota is red, you don't have to sacrifice a land when you cast Red Cat Melee. Rending Volley can't be countered, deals damage to target white or blue creature. Again, another Winota card. This time it can't be countered. Just super efficient, probably about as efficient as it gets. I'm sure there's like white and blue creatures that care about Rending Volley, but Rending Volley is more for the Winotas and stuff. Burning Hands, I have never even seen this card. Deals 2 damage to a creature. If that permanent is green, it deals 6. Oh boy. Alright, so yeah, this definitely seems like it's for like the mono green deck. Probably single-handedly takes out like a Nissa, who shakes the world, takes out the Green Cavalier, and a lot of their other stuff as well. 4 Lava Coil, deals damage to a creature, and then if it would die, you exile it. Um, can help mess with like the Green Cavaliers and some of the other creatures that care about dying, because they go straight to exile instead, which means they never hit the graveyard, which means they don't get their death triggers. Roiling Vortex can really screw people up. Obviously deals 1 damage every turn at the beginning of that player's upkeep. And you can pay a red. Your opponents can't gain life. But the text that people seem to always forget is the biggest paragraph of text that is on this card. Whenever a player casts a spell, if no mana was spent to cast that spell, it deals 5 damage to that player. And is it super relevant in Pioneer? Right off the top of my head, I want to say no. Um, you could really get people that are playing like Fires of Invention, where they just cast their spells through fires. This just fives them. Do they do it again? Probably not, but that means they're also probably not casting spells either. So Rolling Vortex doing its job, able to apply pressure, and the fact that it deals damage at the beginning of each player's upkeep. I was gonna say it does something for spectacle, but it doesn't deal 1 damage to each player on the beginning of their upkeep. So I got it wrong. But another Chandra Dress to kill and Torch Defiance I talked about on the sideboard. You can definitely go bigger. Dealing 4 damage again. Winota for toughness. Getting to add more mana and crucially drawing cards. And if you ever just get to ultimate this thing, you could literally just have a ham sandwich stacked on top of your deck, and that emblem is probably going to win you the game. Also, 3 Rampaging Ferocidon coming in against the like Winota decks and any of the other decks really that obviously go wide. But Ferocidon also meaning that players can't gain life, and then whenever a creature enters the battlefield under that player's control, they take a damage. And you can really punish the Winota decks by like them getting their things and attacking. If their attack doesn't kill you, you deal 4, 5, 6 damage to them, and then you're able to more than likely kill them on the crackback just by getting the free damage plus the 3 that Ferocity will give. And all that said, that is the mono red aggro deck for Pioneer. really, it's a really good deck for the fact that for the cost and just the fact that a lot of decks, if they just stumble and you have a moderately aggressive draw, the mono red deck can just win. So this is definitely a deck that you're not going to like have an insane win rate by any means, but if you play smart, you're able to identify like threats, know when your burn spells have to go to creatures, not to the face, and vice versa, and realize where your outs are. Mono red can be very, very, very dangerous in a skilled pilot's hand. Not only that, again, like if you're a very skilled player and your opponent's like just stumbles for even a turn or two, you can max punish them and almost make it not matter what they do. So definitely a deck worth checking out. Definitely a deck worth playing. And a relatively cheap deck, like $300. Like really, it looks like the Dens and like the Chandras and stuff like that. Of course, there's Eidolons as well, but like aside from like Eidolon and Chandra, the rest of the deck, like Bone Crusher Giant's a card that's like always going to see play as long as it's legal. Den of the Bugbear, the one of Sokensan, Chandra Torch of Defiance, a lot of these cards that are just very good, outside of this deck. So definitely building this deck gets you into some other decks in the format, while also just being able to play this deck. You get to play the format and have a very good deck to boot. So that's going to do it for me in this video. I hope you guys enjoyed watching. If you did, again, please consider subscribing. Leave a comment down below of what Pioneer deck that you want to see next. And of course, leave a like knowing that you enjoyed the video and want to see more of my face on camera posting these videos, or, whatever. Or if you just like magic, I'll take that too. But anyway, that's going to do it for me. I hope you all enjoyed, and I hope to see you all in the next video.